the lack of abilities by the actors, who didn't have the training that the original actors did. That I didn't actually object to, since it was still fighting, and hey, they are superheroes after all. I can believe them doing like really high jumps and whatnot. But I'm putting my foot down here because the explosions and subsequently a more extensive use of special effects is a terrible thing to do. It's the equivalent of a movie compensating for its lack of story with special effects. Yeah, I like when the Rangers use their guns, but it's not because the gun effects are flashy. It's because guns are a more efficient way of defeating the enemy. In the end, though, the martial arts are a staple of the show, and I don't want to trade them in for big, repeated, slow-motion explosions in a rock quarry. But enough about that. Let's talk about some other stuff about the timeline of this series. A thing to note is that we get a picture of Skye's father, who's in the red Time Force uniform. This has led many to believe that Wes is Skye's father, which would actually gel a bit with how this show supposedly takes place in 2025. However, production-wise, it makes more sense that they just had the costume and decided to use it for this, much like how they reused the helmets of the Space Rangers. Skye's last name also isn't Collins, but that could mean anything. We'll get back to this in a minute. In the episode Abridged, the A Squad is officially listed as MIA, and Jack volunteers the squad to try to go looking for them, but Kruger refuses since they're needed on Earth. In the two-parter Sam, Bridge wonders if there's a larger plan at work, since the 5 of them just happened to all end up at SPD, and all happened to have superpowers. Wait, do they not even know why they have civilian powers? They just woke up one day and figured, hey, I can walk through walls. Neato. Weird. The episode itself is about a little kid with powers who is recruited by Mora because he has no friends. Z takes it upon herself to try to help him because of her backstory, but the real story here is revealed in the second part.
Having these gifts is not the only thing that you all have in common. The truth is, your parents all served at SPD before you were born.
Their parents were also the scientists who helped develop the morphers for SPD. This actually creates both a great continuity nod and a continuity flaw. See, as a fan-wank theory, one could say that, especially with Skye's father wearing the red Time Force uniform, and because the SPD powers were developed in 2001, that SPD was actually a subsidiary of Biolabs, or at least affiliated with them. After all, Biolabs was attempting to duplicate the Quantum Morphers powers, and I could see them continuing the research even after Rancic was defeated. Now, the problem this creates is a matter of the time scale. See, in SPD, aliens are commonplace and are not considered anything that different to the people of Earth, which means they've been around for a while. Until this point, no actual year has been spoken on screen for when SPD takes place, but in a later episode it is revealed to be 2025. Let's give the show the benefit of the doubt here and say that aliens have been around for, let's say 10 years their time. Up until now, each Power Ranger season tends to take place in the same year that it's airing. Most people assume that several years have passed between In Space and Lost Galaxy, but the timescale of all the series coming after it means that can't be true, mostly because of the team-up episodes. I've read one theory that says that the wormhole from Miranoi could also be a time portal into the past, but that just seems a little far-fetched on top of everything else. So the problem here is that I guarantee that if Power Rangers continues to 2015, that we're not going to see aliens start becoming integrated with human society. The point is that sadly, I was hoping to say that since they never outright state what year SPD takes place in, it could be placed anywhere in Power Rangers and continuity would be fine. The 2001 tagline kind of screws that over. Time is weird in Power Rangers in that regard. Frankly, I think the only way to reconcile this stuff is the same way we need to reconcile stuff with the moon in Power Rangers. Namely, that physics and science work differently in Power Rangers. In this case, a year in Power Rangers isn't necessarily the same amount of time that it is in our world. After all, only so many seasons actually name the year they take place in, so it'd be easy to work around incongruities in technology and timeline, especially if a year is longer than it is here. Say, like, 700, 800 days as opposed to 365. Anyway, civilian powers. The powers came about because of an accident with the gene enhancers of the Morphers, altering their DNA and passing it off to their children. Sam, in turn, is the last of the children who develop the powers, and they recruit him into the academy. There are a lot of nods in this series to previous seasons. Sometimes you can look in the background of episodes and see little things, whether they're intentional or not. For example, in this same episode, we can see an Equation helping to run drills. We get 3 nods in the episode Stakeout. The first 2 come in the form of a video game featuring the Blue Centaurian fighting a Cyclops monster from Lightspeed Rescue. Then, in the briefing of the episode, Kruger explains about a monster that has escaped from a prison satellite over KO-35. The main story continues in the 2-parter Shadow. The episode begins with a dream of Kruger fighting Grum and his forces. When he awakens, he looks over to a sword with a hilt shaped like a dog's head. Kat goes to him, asking if he had the dream again. After seeing his forces get defeated, Grum is more than a little upset, demanding a new plan from Mora to defeat them. She comes up with the oh-so-clever plan of defeat their leader. Yeah, the last time someone suggested that, it ended with the entire team switching out for 4 newbies. Kruger yells at the Rangers, something we haven't seen him do at